Hey there, glad to have you watching our Earthborne Rangers tutorial. This video is for two types of people. The first type of person is somebody who has gotten the Earthborne Rangers core set, gotten super excited, thought, man, I got a freewheeling, kind of a role-playing open world experience. It's going to be magical. I get to wander around the forest and the woods and find all these things. Everybody says it's a great game. I open it up, I set up that first scenario, I stare at the board and I think, what in the world is going on?
For me, it would have been, as soon as I opened the rule book, I would have been like,
Yeah, this game is a very complex game. A lot of people don't tell you that. It flows beautifully once you get the system down, but it is not a light, easy romp through the woods. This is a very complex game. So if you are experiencing that and you think, man, I don't know what the fuss is with this thing, this video is for you. The second kind of person that this video is for is anybody who's just considering Earthborne Rangers and thinking, man, I don't know if I've got 20 games on my shelf. I don't even play all of those. I don't know if I want to add this one to the collection. Is it worth it? Is it not? And you kind of, those excruciating decisions that we make. This is going to give you a really good look at the core gameplay loop of Earthborne Rangers and give you an understanding of whether or not it's something that you would want to do with your time. So those are the two types of people. If you're one of those types of people, or I suppose the third is just people who enjoy Zach and I. So thank you, Mom. It's good to see you out there. Here's the thing about Earthborne Rangers. The core game is really just about tests. That is like the core thing. So on a Ranger turn, you're going to basically be doing tests, playing cards, or passing. So that's a very simple framework. Now, when you do tests, obviously those tests are very they can spur a lot of things, and they take a lot of consideration as to how best to resolve those. But once you understand the language of tests and the language of the board, and you can kind of see all the different tests that are happening in the game of Earthborne as they're being served to you, then it's like learning a second language and mastering a second language. And so, those early moments are very difficult and you're kind of confused and it's out of your comfort zone. But if you stick with it and you learn the language of this game, it is so incredibly rewarding to finally get to that point where you are simply a ranger wandering through this open world, meeting incredible personalities and doing missions and feeling a great sense of reward for all the things that you're accomplishing. So let's kick things off, Zach. What do you want to start? Should we start with tests? I feel like we should start with tests.
Yeah, I think so. And one note I want to add about the complexity of this is there's nothing particularly complex within the game, but the stack of all the things can be a lot to take in. And it's really hard to get to the point where you start understanding tests without also going through a bunch of steps, which is why we're starting here with tests.
Yeah.
It's the basic building block of the game that contextualizes every other piece that you're going to need to understand to play.
So we're going to start with round one, kind of a pared down round one, and we're going to do as few previews, spoilers of the game as possible. So if you're like, I don't know, this is going to spoil the experience for me, it will not. We're going to use all the things that you'll likely see probably in the first 20 minutes of playing Earthborne Rangers. So round one, we're looking at tests, and the things that are most important on the testing front are the common tests. And a lot of times in games, when you hear common tests, you think, well, these are the things that are not great to do, and the cards will do better things. So I don't need to learn these really very well. But the reality here is that the common tests are the bread and butter of Earthborne Rangers pretty much the entire time. So you have to master those tests. So in this first round, we're going to be talking about common tests, and we're only going to be dealing with common tests and show you what those look like on the board. So let's start with the traverse test. This is the first of the common tests. And what a traverse test does is it basically goes to a feature or location and it explores that feature. And the way that's represented in the game is it's putting progress tokens on whatever it is that you're exploring. And those will have a threshold. So once you reach the threshold of progress, then that location or feature will clear, or it will be travelable, is what we call it around here.
And it's worth noting the game comes with these reference cards, which I think are really important.
So handy.
There's one for common test and one for the round structure. And I play a lot of card games, but I keep both of these in play and right next to me the whole time. This is not a memorization game. Now, over time, you might get comfortable enough that you do remember it, but don't feel the need to put all of this in your brain and store it as you're going. This literally can just sit here the whole time, and we'll even reference it as we're talking about it here.
Yeah, I use it in my personal games 24/7. So the traverse test is important because to me it represents the fundamental thing that you want to be doing in any situation of Earthborne Rangers. And that is I want to be able to put progress on what's the main location. So the main location represents where you are, kind of a conceptual abstraction of where you are or where you're traveling to. So the thing that's in the middle of the board, that main location, nothing else is really going to matter too much in the way of progress and kind of moving the game forward if you cannot move from one location to the next. Now we've got this sweet, sweet map that has all these different locations on it that Jonathan might pull up, but you got a map. So each of these locations represents where you can go in this world.
Yeah, we're here at
we're
Lone
there.
Tree Station, which is the card that's here on the board.
And so for us to go anywhere else, which you might imagine is something we'll want to do, or else why did they put all those locations on there? We're going to need to put the progress required on the main location. And right here you can see on this main location, Lone Tree Station, it has 3R, that is 3 per ranger. So there's 2 rangers, Zach and Steven. That is a total of 6. So we need 6 progress on that location before we can travel to somewhere else. In order to put progress on that location, what do we need to do? Number 1, common test, maybe it's first for a reason, that is the traverse test. So you can see it says fit plus an approach icon that we'll get into a little bit later. And it says traverse X. X in this case is going to equal the presence, which is the difficulty value of the location that you're traversing. On Lone Tree Station, it's a 1. Most of the time in this game, it's going to be a 1. If you don't know what it is, it's a 1. But there are some really tough things that might be 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So fit is going to traverse the nearby terrain to add progress to a location or feature equal to your effort. And if you fail, you suffer 1 injury. So let's look at what that would look like. I'm a ranger. I'm going to do a traverse test, and I know that Lone Tree Station is up here ready to be explored. So what I can do is I can take 1 fit token because it matches the fit there on the test card. So it requires at least 1 fit energy for me to be committed. Then I can add approach icons from my hand, which we're not going to do right now. As I said, we'll cover those later. And then my effort is going to be modified by a challenge card that I draw that's going to give me a modifier. This is the randomization in the game. So it's like Arkham Horror. You've got the chaos bag that you draw a little thing out of. In some of the other ones, you'll reference various icons that you draw from your deck or from the kind of campaign deck. There's usually something that's going to modify a test. And in this game, there is a little challenge deck that tells you how your tests are going to do. So I've got my fitness out here. Now, what I can optionally do as well is I can add more of the energy that's called for if I want to increase my chances. So I've got an energy of 1 here. Let's just say I add all of my energy. So I'm going to add 2 energy. And a lot of times you'll do this in the game. It's just like, I want to do the test well. Like I don't want to just mess around here. I want to do it.
Because remember, you're going to have progress equal to your total effort.
Equal to your effort. And if I fail, I take an injury, which I'm happy to explain shortly.
Yeah, if you ever do fail.
I would never.
Let me grab you one of these.
Yeah, let's do that. So I've got 2 icons. I've got no approach icons committed. And then I've got to meet a presence value of 1. So I'm looking for, on this card, there could be a -2, there could be a -1, there could be a 0, or there could be a +1. The team was very much wanting to terrify us by only giving us -2, but not +2, which I think is a great mistake.
It can only ever
in the
go
scheme
so
of the
good.
game. Yeah, it's like, well, but it's okay. We're heroes nonetheless. So here I reveal the test card, the challenge card here. It gives me +1 fitness. So I've got 1 energy, 2 energy with a modification of +1. So my total effort here is now 3. Beautiful. Now, whenever I resolve a test, I take this and I say, okay, did I pass or fail? Well, the presence is 1, which means the difficulty of the test is 1. And 3 is greater than or equal to 1.
That's right.
Which means I have succeeded in the test. So I'm going to come back to my test card and I'm going to read. It says, add progress to a location or feature equal to your effort. So my effort is 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to add 3 progress to the main location. Zach has these beautiful deluxe tokens that were available in the first Kickstarter and briefly on our website. And I am using the tokens that come in the core set because that's also fine. So before we put this away, this is an important, just don't move yet.
Steven's rule.
The number 1 rule of Earthborne Rangers, according to me, is leave this on the board, resolve the test, then come back to it. And you'll notice there's this little icon on the bottom, this red strip with this crest icon. And what you actually do, and this is the coolest thing, one of the coolest things about Earthborne Rangers.
It's really at the heart of the game.
When you draw a challenge card, it sets the environment alight. So things start happening in the world around you, not just wherever it is that you were focusing your attention, because it's a living world. So I actually look at all of the things up here, what's called along the way, and I look for any of these strips that are red with the matching icon. And there are not any there currently, but if there were, I would resolve the text that they give me. So there's none here, and then I also come down to my zone, and there's none here. I don't go to Zach's zone because he's not the focus of the narrative right now. So I just kind of build a chute, and I come down my way, and I say, oh, okay, no red, and so I discard this.
To be clear, you start with the weather, which is the top left. So it's top left down. And you check for that. Then you look at the main location, and then technically there's missions that could be over here that would happen. Then along the way, then within reach, and then you're off to the
And
races.
then you're out to the races. So the basic function there, just keep that in mind, is when you do a test, you can commit one energy. You must commit one energy of the type called for by the test. Then you commit what's called approach icons from hand, which we'll show you here in a second. Then you can add additional energy if you want to the test. And then you draw that challenge effect. And then you add the modifier. That is now your effort. So add a plus or a minus accordingly. And then resolve the test, either success or fail. And then you run down the weather. And that's kind of the flow that we'll get into here as we go along.
Okay. Well, you made it look easy.
Yeah, easy. Well, okay, I got nothing in front of me. I'm just right here hanging out at Lone Tree.
Yeah, it's a little different for me because whoever set this up decided to put something in my way
A
in my
Sitka
living range, a beautiful Sitka dough. So I'm going to replicate what you did. I'm just going to take a fitness test,
Okay.
but I'm only going to test with one.
Okay.
Now there's an extra layer being added here, which is effectively anything between my ranger and whatever I'm interacting with has the capacity to fatigue me.
Yeah.
And the way that's going to work is I check, in this case, I'm engaging with the location. So anything that is within reach and along the way has the capacity to fatigue me. And you look at the presence here, which is the purple box with the 1 in it on the Sitka. And so when you get fatigue, you take a card from the top of your deck and you put it in your fatigue stack. Now it's possible I could maybe get this back later. It's not quite discarding it, but we'll cover that a little bit later. So 1 there. There's none here. And then
You've arrived.
I've arrived. So
Yeah.
1 fatigue in order to engage with this test. You can imagine if there was a bunch of stuff within reach, it would be very fatiguing for me to make my way past it to get to whatever I'm interacting with.
Yeah, and I kind of think about that as like, you've got a mammal in front of you that maybe is very territorial, and it's like I can't just kind of move right into the path that I want to take. So I've got to go around, I've got to pay attention, and so it takes a little bit longer to do that. And fatigue is representing that it's taking me a longer time to do what I want to do.
That's right. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw to see.
Draw your challenge card.
And I got a +0. So
Okay. You're just on a -0. That's kind of a glass half empty, half full kind of mentality, right? Is it a +0 or
can you
-0?
divide by 0? You can't, can you? Right? Isn't that the thing?
How many times does nothing go into something?
Infinite.
There you go. Or isn't it D&E? One of them
I
is
think
D&E,
it's a
one is
dash.
infinite. Yeah.
I think it's a. Anyways, so walking through our steps. I spent my energy. I drew my card. Now we're gonna check if I pass or fail.
That's right.
So 1 to 1. If I meet or exceed, I succeed.
That's it.
And then we're gonna put progress on equal to my effort. So my current effort is 1.
1.
So we're gonna put 1 on.
So 1 progress goes on.
Yep. Then I got the sun icon. So I'll start back with the weather. There's no sun there. No sun, no sun, no sun. The Sitka does have a sun.
What does it say?
It says if there are 1 or more Sitka bucks in play, they're drawn to this dough. Move each Sitka buck within reach. So
There are no Sitka bucks.
there are no bucks, but if they were, they would move here.
And now we know that, okay, so if I get a Sitka buck on my side, we know that if you draw a sun, it's going to move over there, and that would be even more fatiguing than to get to the main location.
That sure was.
So that is a good thing to know. Okay, thank you for that. Good test. Good test. Good test. Okay, so now let's look at the next common test that we have available to us. That's going to be the avoid test. It's the 4th one on your card. And what I've observed is my friend and fellow ranger, Zach over here, has taken fatigue to go explore the main location. And that, we don't want you to have to fatigue to go do that. And I've got these 2 awareness energy here. So I'm thinking I'll just do an avoid test to exhaust 1 being. That's what that test does. Now the Sitka is a being. It says it up there in its little byline. It's trait. So if I succeed on an avoid test, I can exhaust the Sitka. And what that would do is it would mean that you would no longer take fatigue or resolve its challenge effects.
Well, I would sure appreciate that.
So it basically just blanks the card, kind of gets it out of the universe of you needing to care about it until it stands back up. So Let's do that. What have we learned? We take 1 awareness energy because that is what's labeled there. We can add optionally more if we want to. Let's add another one. I can play cards from my hand to buff this test, but I'm not going to do that right now. And then I'm going to look at the X value, which is presence. So the presence of the Cicado is 1. So I've got 2. I'm trying to meet or exceed a 1, and I need a challenge card, please, sir.
I'll hand it to you. I will never reveal it for you.
That's right. This is okay, perfect. So we just barely made it. So we have 2 energy minus 1. So our effort is 1. So effort of 1 is equal to or greater than 1, which means we're going to resolve the test effect. We're going to avoid notice to exhaust 1 being. So exhaust that Cicado.
Thank you very much.
And then I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to say, okay, I've got a blue challenge effect to resolve here.
You left on the table.
I left it on the table. I see the perfect day says, if this test added progress, add 1 additional progress. I wish I could have got that when I was exploring up here.
Yeah, and you were not adding progress. You were just exhausting.
I was just exhausting. Now, it did progress my objective, but it didn't add progress in terms of the game.
Different kind of progress, you know what I mean?
All right, well, now you're free and clear, buddy.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and engage with Lone Tree Station again with a traverse. So I'm going to spend an energy. I will not take any fatigue this time.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
So then we're going to go ahead and draw. And you can see as we go, the pace starts to pick up because you just start to understand what's going on.
Whoa.
And I drew -1. So now I'm a 0. We're going to compare that total to the presence of the location, which is 1. So I have failed the test, which means I just leave.
What does that mean? It says here. Now, normally, it doesn't mean anything. You just have to look at the resolution of the test to decide what happens.
There's no inherent test or inherent penalty to failing a test unless the test says so, which if you remember reading this traverse test, that last little sentence says, if you fail, suffer an injury. So the way that's going to work is I'm going to take one of these harm, which I have a die or token.
This is what the normal token looks like.
And
pretty similar.
You put that onto your ranger or, as some would suggest, the top of your deck. And when you do that, I'll get into why I put that there in a second. But another thing that's important to note here, when you take an injury, if you have any fatigue, these cards get immediately discarded. So there are ways to get fatigue back, but once it's discarded, we're in a whole different world. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll put my injury here for now.
A civilized player, huh?
Then we might do something else later. Looking at the crest icon, I'm going to start at the top. There's none. There's none. There's none. So I've resolved the test. And the world keeps spinning.
So let's talk a little bit why injuries matter here. This really gets into the heart of the game. Is what are we doing here? What's the end goal? What's the point? Really, you have 30 days in a campaign of Earthborne Rangers, and playing Earthborne Rangers well is basically getting as much done in a single day as possible. And a single day you can basically equate to you're running out of deck.
Gotcha. So when you run on deck, the day is over.
The day is going to be over. Or you can obviously end it, but that's generally going to be how you would, lose the day. Now, you'll still get plenty done. You'll just be really tired. So as you saw, the fatigue goes into a sort of a purgatory state. Now, why does that exist? Because there are mechanics in the game that actually soothe fatigue and get those cards back into your hand. So it's not quite out of the game. It's not quite a wasted card yet. But once you take an injury, all those things flip to the discard pile. And most of the time, that means that is essentially, of your 30 cards of day that you have, that is 1 card of day gone. So the other thing is, too, that Zach's going to have to take a fatigue when he rests if he has an injury. So now the clock is really starting to tick. As you get more injured, the days get longer and harder, and so more and more fatigue goes into your fatigue stack, and then if you get injured again, it all goes to your discard pile. So be careful with fatigue and injuries. It's kind of a risk-reward mechanic. You can get a lot of fatigue, and it can turn into a really positive card draw. But if you take that injury, suddenly all of that potential is wasted.
Yeah, and it is important to note, if you get 3 injuries, you immediately end the day. Yeah. So if anyone in your party ends up with 3 injuries, you have to spend the rest of the day taking care of that.
Yeah. Which is,
and then other things happen too. But.
Probably wise. Yeah. I do that for my friends as well. It's like, 3 injuries. Well, I'll see you on the top of the mountain, buddy. Okay, so let's look at another one of these common tests. Let's talk about the Connect test a little bit. This is the spirit test that you can do right out of the box here. And it says you connect with the life around you to add progress to a being equal to your effort. So this is the equivalent of a traverse test, but it's just for beings. So I'm going to add progress to beings whenever I connect with them. Now you'll notice that the Cicado is a being, so that's good. That's something that I can connect with. And you saw the avoid test was me exhausting the Cicado. So that is a temporary solution to my problem. But at the end of the round here, that Cicado is going to stand up. And so the problem is anew. So instead of just temporarily solving it, I can more permanently solve it by connecting with it. And if I look at the progress threshold here of 4, that's what that little icon is. If I put 4 progress on that Cicado, then I will discard it to the path discard.
Gotcha.
So then, next round, whenever you have to explore the main location, it doesn't need to be avoided before you do that if you don't want to take any fatigue. So I'm going to do that. I'll show you what that looks like. I am a low spirit ranger. I have a lot of focus, but not much spirit, the way I like to build them. I've got 1 spirit. I can't add any additional spirit because I simply don't have any energy tokens left. I can commit approach icons from my hand, which I am not doing in this round. So I got 1. It's got a presence of 1. Which means I need a 0 or higher on this card. And I do get a 0, which is beautiful. So 1 minus 0 is 1, which means I succeed. I'm going to add progress to it being equal to my effort. Let's throw 1 on there. We left the card on the table because we are playing the game well. Let's go back up to the top and resolve our weather icon, or our challenge icon. Looky there. If this test added progress, add 1 additional progress.
Free money.
Because it's a perfect day, and that Cicado wants to be connected with, and we're hanging out. Now, I look at along the way. It is currently empty. Now, normally, I would just come right down to my zone. But I actually, because I'm interacting with your world, your space, I bring your ranger effectively into the narrative that we're looking at. So that means that if I'm interacting with anything on your side of the board, I'm going to resolve the within reach of you as well as me. So now I'm going to choose which within reach zone to resolve first. Let's choose me. Nothing resolves. Then we'll choose you to resolve second. Now, normally, anything that's over in your zone, I would look at this blue strip and say, oh, something's going to happen. But because this is exhausted, it doesn't have any of that to deal with. It is essentially totally blank as a card. So if you had things standing up over here, I would begin to resolve those if they match the blue icon. But because you have only exhausted things, nothing is going to trigger there. So we can resolve that test successfully and move right along.
All right, so back over to me. I'm gonna go ahead and also do a connect test.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try to clear this because I don't want it to linger and I don't want to have to deal with it.
Look at that 3 spirit.
Yeah, I'm a high spirit kind of guy, you know. So we're gonna put 3 in. Technically, only 1 is required, but I'm gonna go ahead and make it 3, and then I'll draw my challenge card.
Beautiful.
We actually got a +1.
Whoa.
Oh, and a mountain. That would have
Beautiful.
That
That dough is connected with, man.
Man.
So let's run it down.
Got it. Okay, so I succeed. My total effort is 4. So I'm actually going to put 4 progress here, which is going to go to 6. It's going to be enough to clear it. So I'm going to take this card, and we're going to put it in the path discard pile.
And you do basically take a mini pause the moment that progress goes on. If something's going to clear, you clear it right there.
Yeah, before it has a chance to resolve.
Get it done. Yeah.
Do anything else. And then, of course, like a professional, I left this on the table. So I will check. If the test added progress, add an additional. So I would have added.
You know, let's just do it for like our, for our morale.
Another, just to stack them.
Progress there.
And there's nothing else on the table. So I'll just clear my tokens. Put this in this card pile.
Beautiful.
And send it back over to Steven.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, you'll notice we're resolving these tests and we're starting to get some literacy at how to do this. Now, if you're the kind of person who loves the very meticulous, I need to know how to resolve every single, when does a card clear, when does this happen, when does that happen, there's a really, really good resource for you. And I know you. I know a lot of people in this category because I am one of them.
It's like the opposite of wherever I sit on that.
It's the little, yeah, exactly. Like we could, this is the part of the Venn diagram we do not share whatsoever. There's a beautiful little chart that you can print out. It's on the Living Ranger side of the Earthborne website. You can find it there under their docs. And it will kind of give you the full flow chart of how a test resolved. Right now, not terribly important, but you know, you can find yourselves in situations where there's a bunch of things happening, and you might need that resource. And if you can't find it, come to our Discord, and we'll tell you where it is.
That's right.
Because sometimes I can't find it either, and I gotta figure it out. Okay, moving on to the final common test. We've done the traverse, the connect, the avoid. Let's talk about remember. So this is a focus test. Again, I can add approach icons to it, but I'm not going to. It says, remember your training to scout ranger cards equal to your effort, then draw 1 ranger card. So scouting is similar to opting, or what is it called in all these games?
Scry?
Opting, scrying, is that the magic one? But basically, scouting is you have that many cards, and then you can put any number on the top or bottom of the deck.
You look at that from the deck.
Yeah, you
like
look at
nothing
that.
from hand. So if you remember 3, you would look at 3 cards from the top of your deck and choose which ones to put on top or bottom.
Let's just try it.
Here we go.
Let's just get in the trenches.
For 3.
All right, 3 remember. I don't have anything to add to that test, so why don't you hit me with a card? Never flipped, though.
That's right.
Beautiful. Okay, so we got a 0 focus. Well, speaking of the 3 remember test, 3 energy plus 0
See the future.
is 3. And you see the remember test here doesn't have a number associated. It doesn't say X in brackets. It doesn't say anything. So I know that that is a default of 1. Every test is a default of 1 if I can't otherwise suss out what it's supposed to be. So 3 is definitely greater than or equal to 1, which means I will scout cards equal to my effort and then draw 1.
And important to note here, if you had a lot of things within reach and you were doing this test, they would not fatigue you because you're not trying to interact past them.
That's right. It's good shout there. Okay, so here's 3 cards that I get to look at privately, but we're working together, so I'm just going to put them on the table. But sometimes you like surprise your friends, and have that little combo, and then they're like, we can't do it. And then you're like, yes, we can. And then you're a hero.
And then you're a hero. There's like a little addendum to it.
So this card is really good late game because it puts things back into my fatigue stack that have been discarded. So I don't need that yet. So I'm going to put that on the bottom.
Plus that artist.
This card is incredible. I love this card. And this card's fine too. I don't mind that. I'll keep that. So I'll put one of these on the bottom. I'll put 2 of them on top. Let's do it like this.
Tactically speaking too, that it's notable when you're putting cards on bottom. It's highly likely you're going to see those at the end of the round. So as you're playing the game and remembering, putting things late that you want on the bottom is a big piece of playing the game.
Flesh and blood player, huh? Then I'll draw my card.
All right.
And that's my remember test.
Well, it's been working for me so far. So I'm just going to keep following suit. Well, technically, we'll clear this.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I got to resolve the sunshine.
Yeah.
See, and that is why we left that card on the board, because we get excited, we get distracted, but then we come back to the board and we say, oh, right, we haven't resolved it because it's not discarded.
And I'll tell you, this is a simple board state, right? It's really easy to get wrapped up, and you got 2 people playing, and you're kind of doing your thing, and then all of a sudden, it's very clean. Just
leave them on the table. Leave them on the table. So I don't see any sun icons anywhere, so I don't need to worry about resolution.
I'll also try to remember.
Wow, really cool with your big tokens there, buddy.
Yeah, they got the like poker chip sounds,
Oh, hold on, let me remember 3.
Oh, so delicate. All right, we're doing this. Oh, come on. Come on. All right,
Andrew!
so it's 2 minus 2 to 0. And as you said, the default is 1 if it doesn't otherwise say. So I have yet again failed the test. Then we left it here, and there's a new thing worth noting here. So first, we're going to resolve the crest icon. Nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. Cool. This icon right here. So any of these tests that have a -2 on them actually also have this icon, which means we're going to shuffle the challenge deck. So there's only 1 of each -2 in the deck, and anytime you hit it, you're going to shuffle the deck. So there's always a chance you'll draw the -2.
Always a chance.
You don't, weed out the -2s and then realize that you can't fail anymore. Kind of.
Yep, wouldn't that be something?
I'm going to go ahead and discard this, put this away, and then I'm going to shuffle this deck.
Cool. Okay, well, that's great. So we've kind of seen everything. So those are the 4 common tests. So just to kind of reiterate there, we did a traverse test, and the primary function of the traverse test right out of the box is to put progress on the main location so that you can then travel to whatever location you want to go to. So that's like number 1 priority. If you're confused about what am I supposed to do, there's stuff happening on the board, where am I supposed to be? You can always say, can I put progress on the main location? If the answer is yes, it's always something useful to do. Traverse can also be used on random features on the board as well, so keep an eye out for that. So we did the traverse test, we did the awareness test, which is avoid, and that is how you exhaust beings that are going to sit out in front of you and cause you fatigue to go interact with the things that you actually want to be doing. So that's a way to basically temporarily solve a problem. Then we have connect, which is more of a permanent way to solve a problem, where you can connect to get the Sit Cadeau, for instance, out of your friend's way or out of your own way so that you don't fatigue to go do what you want to do. And that's also a test that's useful for other things. There are other beings that you want to connect with to say hi, or to help them with a mission, or to help them with a task. So connecting is a big part of this game for beings specifically. And then finally, remember is the kind of default card draw test of the game. It's a way to filter through your hand, get the cards that you need so that you can realize the Ranger potential that you built into your deck. So those are the 4 tests, and I think the only thing left now, because we can either take tests, rest, or play cards from our hand, and we've decided this first round we won't play cards because it'd be too confusing to kind of scaffold into that. So let's just rest.
Okay.
I'm going to choose rest for my action and pass it over to you.
Meanwhile, I'm going to do something different. Just kidding. So I'm going to go ahead and rest, but there is something different happening with me, which is to remember I have this injury. And one of the reasons that you might want to put this on top of your deck is so you don't forget that you have the injury. Because when I go to rest, I am actually going to suffer fatigue because I have the injury. And if the die was here, that would remind me, hey, do this stuff. Otherwise, I've definitely gotten a few rounds in and then been like, I don't know how to walk this back.
Yikes. Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll take a fatigue and I will also rest.
All right. So when all the Rangers at the table have rested, that is essentially the end. You kind of move through the round structure at that point. You end the Ranger turns at that moment. So everybody's rested. And now it's important to note, if I rest, Zach can continue going action after action after action until he also rests. So we both rested. Now we can optionally travel. This is the moment in the game where we would actually move to a different location. If we had 6 progress on the main location, we only have 4. So it's not even an option for us, so we can skip that entirely. Then we go to the refresh phase, where we're going to ready all cards. So that would be the Sit Cadeau that was exhausted would get readied. Any of our cards in play would get ready. And then we draw a card and we gain all of our energy back. So that is kind of the refreshment phase, draw a card, gain energy, get ready for the new challenge ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let me refresh.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't have to tell me twice.
My
Loading back
my
up.
energy.
Getting my
It's a
card.
great feeling, isn't it? You feel like the potential is really, really building there, you know?
You go from no options to all the options immediately.
Draw 1 card. I knew what it was because I scouted with that remember test. Now, the last thing we want to do in really any phase is we want to look at the board one last time and say, is there any effect that says something happens now? And we do see this refresh on a perfect day. Discard 1 cloud from this card. If there are no clouds remaining, flip this card. I'm going to say that over and over again during play all the time because I always forget to do it.
That's one of the easiest things to forget, easily.
And then we go back up to the top of the round structure. This is where we start to actually expand the environment, and the challenges or friends are going to come with that. So this is path cards. We're each going to draw 1 path card. Now, at the start of the mission, at the start of the day, we choose somebody to be the lead ranger. And this is just really about who's going to take the first turn. And sometimes it affects, like, the path cards will say certain things. So you want to be the lead ranger or me? Who wants it?
It feels like you.
Okay.
It feels like you.
I'll be the lead ranger. Is it because of the sweater? Does it have lead ranger energy?
It does.
Would you say?
Yeah. It has at least lead ranger swagger.
So I'm a lead ranger. I'll get the first one. It is a Sit Cadeau. We've seen that bad boy before, or that bad girl before. That doe.
I get a sunberry bramble. So this is a plant. It's not a bean. Feature flora food. So inherently not a bean, but it works the same way. So if I'm trying to interact past it, I'll get fatigue. And then there's things that we'll learn about it later.
You know, the thing that I immediately pick up on there is it's a feature, which means you can traverse it to add progress. So keep that in mind. You know, the location, you can do it there. You can do it to features as well. This is a being for the connect test. So you see how these common tests are starting to work.
You can't traverse the Sit Cadeau.
You cannot.
Okay.
You can traverse past it, but it costs you 1 fatigue, of course. Okay, now let's get into our ranger turns. Now this round, last round we did just the common tests, no hand, no approach icons, no funny business.
Now, what is an approach icon?
Well, we're about to find out because we're adding them in round 2. We're going to add approach icons and we're going to add tests on cards. So that means we get to pick up our hand, which makes us very happy because this is where half of our lives has been spent. It's behind a hand of cards. And now we have a beautiful display of cards, primarily cards with all of these little approach icons on them. And approach icons, there's 4 of them, and they are going to allow you to buff tests or increase the effort, I should say, of a test based on the icon listed next to it. So all the tests that you'll see, at least so far, they might do tests that don't get approach icons, who knows. But all the tests, we're going to have a primary energy type, and they're going to have an approach icon next to them. And so you spend that energy, and then you can commit those kinds of cards from your hand to make that test easier. And I think we'll probably show you that throughout this round. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at the Sit Cadeau and say, I'm not taking 1 fatigue. Not doing it. I don't want to take 1 fatigue to go up here to do my traverse test like I did last time because this annoys me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start connecting with it. I could avoid it and try to, kind of temporarily, but I'm a long-term kind of player, so I'm going to get this sick Cadeau off the table. Maybe Zach will help. We'll see. So let's connect, and we're going to use approach icons. We'll show you what that looks like. So the sick Cadeau is a presence of 1. I'm going to declare a test. It's going to be the connect test. I look at my card, it calls for spirit. So I add 1 spirit energy. If I had more in my pool, I could commit them here, but I have a lowly 1 spirit, so 1 is the best I can do. I'll have to rely on the cards from my hand. So next I look at the approach icon. It is a heart. And I look in my hand and I say, are there any cards that have hearts in them? And by golly, there are. And I'm going to decide, well, some of these cards, we're not going to show you this till round 3, but I might want to actually play these cards. So maybe I don't want to commit them here, get a one-time use, but I'm going to do it with my field journal here. So all that I do is I put this card down and I count the number of approach icons on the card that match the test. So I've got 1 energy, I've got 1 matching approach icon. This is a heart. And then I get 1 challenge card to see what happens. Boom, a -1. Thank you, Zach, for choosing wisely. However, because I added that approach icon, I do actually get a result. So
right.
1 + 1 is 2, -1 is 1. So my effort is 1. That's important to remember. This is the only place that you calculate your effort. The presence of the test doesn't matter. You don't subtract the difficulty to get your final result. None of that happens here. That can be very confusing up front. 1 + 1 is 2, -1 is 1. That is my effort. End of story. So 1 is a success because it matches 1 or exceeds it. I go to my connect test. It says add progress equal to your effort. So can you give me one of your fancy dice thing? Everyone wants the fancy stuff until they have to buy it. 1 sick Cadeau, progress goes on, and then I resolve my challenge effect. So I go up to the top of the board. I look at the world. I go to the world view here, zoom out a little bit, start with the weather. If it added progress, add 1 additional progress. I have that matching blue, so
Halfway home.
hey, that's good. It was a perfect day again. Just connected with that sick Cadeau. It's beautiful out here. I skip Zach here because I'm not dealing with anything on his side of the board. Along the way is blank. Skip Zach. Come down to the sick Cadeau. What does it say? If there is an active predator, exhaust it. So we would look at the top, and this is a being prey mammal. You're not active for me because you're out of this resolution phase. And nothing up here says active, says predator. So there are no active predators, so I don't need to worry about that. I'm going to discard the card that I used for the approach icon. My energy goes away back into the pool, and this challenge gets discarded.
All right, so last time you helped me out with my sick Cadeau. I'm going to go ahead and
where this is going.
return the favor. So I really want to make sure I succeed because when I interact with something within reach of you, anything that's active within reach of me is going to fatigue me as well. It's not just across here. Everything on this layer is active. Now, it's not relevant right now, but to be clear, things along the way would not fatigue me if I'm interacting with you. So it's not like a triangle where I go up here and then back over to you. You can kind of imagine this as almost a horizontal pipeline. So I'm going to go ahead and really connect. We're going to make this happen.
3 connections, so that's 3 energy. Wow. Nice.
Got a -1. So 3 - 1 is 2. Presence is 1.
So what's your effort?
So my effort is 2.
That's right.
Yeah, and I got that wrong so many times early on. It was because I would get a minus here, and then I would start subtracting out the presence as well.
Yeah.
Which you just don't do. So my total effort is 2. It is a success. So we passed that test. We're gonna put 2 more progress on.
Threshold here is 4. Clear the sick Cadeau immediately. And that's important because when you go to resolve that icon, now this thing is not here, so it would not resolve.
Yeah. So I left this on the table, of course. We're going to start resolving. If this added progress, we'd add 1 more. So it would really succeed. Nothing here. Sunberry is going to resolve. It says if there's an active prey, exhaust it. So if the sick Cadeau was out here, it was a prey, it would exhaust and this would trigger it. Because it's not, that doesn't count as resolving.
Now, you've expertly demonstrated how easy it is to miss fatiguing yourself whenever you're.
We don't need to worry about that.
But I think that's worth. I think that's good to
about
see.
It.
Yeah,
but I didn't.
You just have to actually do it.
Listen to what I say. Don't watch what I do.
So because you have 1 fatigue up here active, to move over to another zone and not deal with what's in front of you, it's going to cost you all the fatigue that's active in your within reach zone.
Yep.
So we will honor your sacrifice of 1 fatigue to come help me connect with that Cicado. I appreciate that very much. Okay, well now you can see, look who's free to tango here, man.
He's got a clear lane.
Got a clear lane, and I think I'm gonna go. I've got 2. I'm gonna choose the traverse test. I'm wide open, going for the touchdown here. 2 fit, and I don't know. I don't think I want to use any approach icons. Again, cards are precious. So every card that you use or that gets discarded via injury, or even that you draw sometimes, is out of your deck. And everything that's out of your deck is basically making the day go shorter and shorter and shorter. So if I use all of these cards to do my approach tests, I might come up with a situation later on in the game where I really need that icon to pass a test, and then I can't pass the test, and then I've got to spend more cards to do the test next time, and then it can just really get out of hand. So I'm just going to use 2 fitness. I'm going to add no approach icons, and then I'm going to get my challenge card here. So traversing Lone Tree Station, presence is 1. We've got a 0, so 2 plus or minus 0 is 2. My effort is 2, and I resolve this test here. Add progress to a location or feature equal to your effort. So let's add 2. That's going to be 6. Now, freeze before we do anything here. Most things, whenever they have the threshold met, they're going to clear. The main location does not. The main location simply reaches the threshold. You can continue to add progress to it. Sometimes you might want to. There are various reasons why you might actually want to do that. But for us, we're just going to add the 2 there, leave that 6 there, and what that does is it turns a red light into a green light. It now means that when both Zach and I rest, we will have the option to travel to a new location because we have successfully explored the one that we are currently in. So now it's kind of like, okay, it's kind of the relief valve is released. We can always leave if we need to. So now let's have a good time here at Lone Tree Station. Then I left the card on the table because even after diatribing as I have, I still know that I need to resolve this crest icon. Blue says no. Along the way, there's nothing. Come down to me, there's nothing. Thank you, Zach, for the help with the Cicado. And then I don't even look at your zone because I wasn't interacting with anything on your side.
Not
of the board.
active.
It is not active. And there it goes.
Okay. So now it's back over to me, and I'm going to actually take a test that is on a card. So this test is on the Sunbury Bramble. And one thing I want to point out, you can read here, it says awareness, and it's got the triangular icon, which I think it's on the back of the rulebook, whatever that's called.
Yeah.
I was going to ask earlier what the heart was called, but so
that is the reason icon.
okay. So awareness plus reason.
I call it the recycle icon.
That's fair.
Personally.
And then that will let me pluck, which is what I'm going to do. But it is worth noting, if you look at the common test card, the avoid test is awareness plus whatever that icon is.
That, Zach, is the conflict icon.
Conflict icon. So,
or the koi fish icon, is like the koi pond, as I call
I
it.
had no idea they were fish for the longest.
Well, they may not be, but I always think that they are. They're the little, like, kind of a yin-yang fish thing.
Fighting or getting along, who knows? But the important part is you'll notice as you go that various tests have different combinations of these stats plus approach icons. You'll notice on Lone Tree Station the same thing is true. There's a test there with awareness plus a heart. So I'm going to do the pluck test, though, which is awareness plus.
And that's a good point. It's
Cycle.
not that awareness is always paired with conflict.
That's right.
Or that fit is always paired with exploration, the compass.
Or awareness and reason, or
Yeah.
focus and reason is how you remember, right? And most of the time, that's going to be a very thematic pairing.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier people that want to break down the turn cycle, but I particularly respect people that want to really tell the story.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to put together the puzzle of how does awareness plus reason, plucking. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, logically, I figured out how to do
like
this.
you know the skill of what a Sunbury bramble is supposed to do. So you know that it's worth eating, but then you have to have the awareness to not get thorns while you're going after.
That's
it.
right.
You know.
So I'll commit the necessary energy. I only have 1 awareness, so it's a miracle I even noticed that test was there. I'll also add 1 approach icon. So we'll see the reason icon here. So my current total is 2.
Now, what happens if you fail here? If you fail, this feature fatigues you. So you would take 1 fatigue, because when something fatigues you, it's its presence.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a pretty highfalutin, scary test in my mind.
2. I have to get the -2 again. That can't happen.
1 plus 1 is it's a 2.
Oh, I I
This
don't.
is a 2.
That happens, you know. You get into a situation you don't realize how risky it was. And that's
Okay, let him go.
I'm okay with fatigue. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I actually got a plus
solid,
one.
solid.
I knew the game needed to reward me for all the negatives that I've seen so far. So my total is a 3. The test is a 2, so I succeed.
Okay.
And it says, pluck the thorn ringed fruit to add 1 damage to this feature, 1 harm to this feature, and soothe 2 fatigue.
Nice.
If you fail, this feature fatigues you. So I'm going to add 1 harm.
Nice. So the bramble basically gets, it basically takes some harm, some damage, because you're plucking berries off of it.
Perhaps eating it or applying it to a wound or something.
Yeah.
And it's important to note on this, it does not say add harm equal to my effort.
Right.
And it's easy to get in that assumption because of the way a lot of these basic tests work where it's scaled based on how much you contributed to it. This is just a pass-fail.
Yeah.
It either happens or doesn't. So we're doing 1 harm. I'm going to soothe 2 fatigue, which means I got to take 2 fatigue here. And those cards
top 2
go
cards
into my hand, which is phenomenal. And then if I fail, I did not fail. I left this out. Make sure I didn't miss it. Looking for sun icons, nothing on the weather, nothing on the location, nothing here. Good to go. So I'll discard this,
Beautiful.
put this over here, and this will go in my discard pile.
And so that's a nice way to soothe fatigue. Now, it's worth noting, like right now, Zach and I could both rest and go somewhere else. We could travel to another location. I think there's a desire a lot of the time to do everything possible to exhaust all of your energy and try to get everything done that you can. Just know that that's not often the best thing to do. There's no downside to leaving a location with your energy full. It doesn't mean that you wasted time or effort. A lot of times you're going to spend more effort and waste more time at a location that you're better off just leaving. But also keep in mind that the path deck has many wonders in it. There's an innumerable amount of things that could come out of that path deck that maybe are things that are going to give you missions or tell you a little story prompt or give you a little hint that maybe you should go this way or that way that are going to expand on the story of the game. So sometimes you get that location kind of ready to travel, and then it's like, let's stay here and like see what this location has. And as you do that in the game, you'll kind of learn what each of these locations does. And so you think, you're like halfway through your campaign. You're like, I know where that person is, or I know where that thing is. So really get to know the locations and surroundings too. Don't feel the need to rush, but also don't feel the need to stay put just to waste all of your energy.
Spend all of the energy.
Yeah, because that's what we're probably going to do here, because I'm a curious person. All right, so let's look at the awareness test there on Lone Tree Station and just kind of see what our options are. It says we can search beneath the comforting shade of your Giga Redwood home to scout path cards equal to your effort, then draw 1 path card. So this is a way for me to look in that path deck and try to find the things that are going to expand the story. Like,
who knows what lies in that deck?
the beauty of the game, isn't it?
Also, I just noticed for some reason, like a psychopath, I created a second discard pile here. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up.
Very nice.
While we're here.
Hey, and it's worth noting, since you're in this zone, what you guys saw is that your fatigue stack is actually a kind of quasi draw area. So it's actually more efficient a lot of times to take fatigue and draw it with soothing effects than it is to use remember test to get cards in your hand. So again, the game is turning a lot of things on its head. Things that are often bad are not actually that bad, and often sometimes good. So don't be afraid to explore like taking fatigue, because sometimes doing heroic things takes a lot of fatigue. Knowing that you can have soothing effects that come out of the path deck or that your friends can apply to you that are going to get those cards in your hand. So they're not wasted, if you will. Lone Tree Station has a search test. It says I can scout those path cards. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do...
He's all in.
I'm all in. There's nothing else on the board. There's no other common tests that are going to be relevant here. I can't connect with anything. I could remember, so I'm going to save my focus for that. I can't avoid a being. That's not a being. I could traverse the bramble, but I don't have any fitness. So let's just send them all. I'm going to search. Do I want to put anything in from my hand? No, I don't. I'm happy with that. Let's just do a 2 and hit me with a challenge card if you would here. Thank you. That's a 0. 2 plus 0 is 2, so my effort is 2. And I'm going to resolve the test. Scout path cards equal to my effort. My effort was 2. Then draw 1 path card. So let me flip these over. Oh, look who we got. We've got Earthborne Ranger Veteran. So I'm going to leave him on top.
Okay.
And I'm going to put this Sunbury Bramble, I don't know, on the bottom.
Let's go.
You don't care about the Bramble, right?
We got enough Bramble going on, you know?
And then we're going to draw the top card. Now, one thing you can do when you're scouting, you can put everything on the bottom and draw a random card from the top if nothing that you see there is what you like. So I'm going to put this back on top, and then I resolve further, draw one path card. And then the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at where this card is going to go. So Zach and I kind of defaulted on the original when we drew our path cards. Most of the time, they'll go within reach. They'll kind of come to you. This down arrow is what tells us that that's the case. So I'm going to put Cordo in front of me. If there was an up arrow, Cordo would come in along the way. So that's a very important thing to reference when you draw a path card. The second important thing to reference is, do they have a story prompt here? And you can see that Cordo has a little book icon. It says 44. So I pick up my my campaign guide, which I think you've got it over there.
Sniped it.
And I look at entry number 44. And then there's a number of options where it says if this is this card entering play, you maybe go down a different tree. If you're clearing it with progress, clearing it. There's a lot of different things. So be sure to look at the macro entry and then follow the instructions of what you're supposed to read. Now, we developed a little unique entry for Cordo so that you don't actually engage with the game, so that you can enjoy that fully. Thank you for that, Andrew, for helping us with this. So we're going to read our special version here, and we'll say, as you walk past the old Ranger's route, the tavern nestled at the base of Lone Tree Station, you see the broad-shouldered figure of its proprietor, Cordo Haverson, sweeping the threshold with a long-handled broom. He waves you over, and the veteran ranger clasps your hand as you approach. Welcome, he says. How's your patrol been treating you? While exchanging pleasantries, you notice that Cordo seems a little distracted. And then it gives me this prompt. It says, clear Cordo with progress to ask what's on his mind. So this is where that connect test comes in handy. This is a being, and we don't necessarily want to clear Cordo off the board. That's not our intention there. Our intention is to clear with progress so that we can figure out what's on Cordo's mind. Because as you might expect, that could be very important for us. We want to help people. We're rangers. So Cordo is coming to play, and you'll notice because we're so smart, Zach, we left the card on the table, which means now we can go back up and finish resolving this test using the challenge effect here. I don't see any red crests. I don't see any red crests along the way. I do see a red crest on Cordo, and because Cordo came into play before I started resolving challenge effects, I actually look at this. If there are 2 or more active predators, exhaust one of them, add harm to this being equal to that predator's presence. So Cordo will get attacked if there's 2 or more active predators, and I know that now, so I don't want that to be the case ever, but there's certainly no active predators here, here, or here, and again, Zach is not active whenever I'm taking a test that is not involving his space. So I can resolve this, get rid of that, and I'll pass the turn back over to you.
Okay. On my turn, I'm going to go ahead and just do a remember test. See if I can actually draw some cards. So I'll put 2 in, and I'll do no icons, even though I could use reason to contribute more to this. We'll go ahead and resolve the test, see what happens. And I mentioned this earlier, but again, doing a remember test while things are active in my within reach, I will not be fatigued by them.
Right. It doesn't take any fatigue to remember.
That's right. It does take fatigue to keep drawing these -2s. Who put these in there?
Are you kidding? Man, you can't remember for anything.
Low awareness has no memory of anything. Am I even any use at all? All right, so I failed. Even though I failed, I'll still resolve the icons. So we'll start here with the crest. There's no crest. You're not active right now, so I'll ignore you. None here. We're good. And then it's got a -2, so we'll get the icon to reshuffle.
You're going to become a really good reshuffler throughout the course of this
apparently
game.
the thing I'm best at in this game.
Okay, so back over to me, I reckon. I've got 3 focus, so obviously that's a remember test. Now, this is also a moment where we could play cards out of our hand onto the board. That's the last phase of this game, like the last learning block of this game that we'll get into in the next round. So I'm not going to show that quite yet. So I'm just going to stick to the common test. I'm going to do a remember of 3. Because this takes a fitness to hunt with Cordo. You know, this Cordo has brought in a new test with him, so I could do that with a had fitness, but I don't. I could come over here and pluck these berries on your side of the board, but I don't have any awareness. I can't search Lone Tree anymore because, again, I don't have awareness. So about the only thing I can do with these is remember, and I may as well. So 3 energy into the remember. Hit me with the challenge deck if you would. No approach icons coming in. I typically don't want to add approach icons to a remember test because I'm basically discarding a card to draw a card. Oftentimes not really what you're looking to do. There's a -1. 3 minus 1 is 2, so my effort is 2, and I'm going to resolve the test. I'm going to scout ranger cards equal to my effort. My effort, as I said, is 2. So let's scout ranger cards.
Meanwhile, you're a steel trap up there.
Oh, man. Both of these cards are my favorite cards.
Gotta be the multi-tool, right?
I'll put them in this order,
Oh, yeah, keep them.
and then I'll draw one, courtesy of the remember test. And I left the card on the board. No sun icon in the, what would you call this? Like the game zone? Like the surroundings. It says it right there on the map, the surroundings.
These surroundings, yeah.
All right, so no sun in the surroundings, no sun along the way.
It's kind of hidden, though. That's
some of
some
the
dark
rooms.
text there,
It is dark
graphically
text, yeah.
speaking.
All right, there we go. Discard that card. Discard this energy, and then I'll pass it back to you.
All right, so I'm looking at my options. I have 2 fitness, so I could technically traverse Lone Tree Station, but we already have enough on that.
Yeah, and you take a fatigue to do it because of
Yeah.
the bramble, right?
So I don't really want to do that. Don't have any awareness to engage with the bramble. I could engage with Cordo. I would get fatigue from the bramble to hunt with him, but there's no active beings out. So we can't really hunt if there's nothing to hunt. So
Now you could traverse the Sunbury Bramble. It is a feature, so you could add progress to it, try to get it off the board. But I have a feeling that it also has a threshold of 2 harm. You've already done 1.
Yeah.
So if you pluck a berry again, soothe some fatigue, that's a good way to get it out of the MCU.
I know I have an injury, so I'm going to get another fatigue on my rest. So I think I'd rather wait and try to soothe on it.
This is the beautiful thing about Earthborne Rangers. That you might want to leave that there so that you can soothe fatigue by eating the berries next round.
That's right.
It's not like just an obvious, like, get all the things off the board and win.
Or just use all your energy.
Yeah.
Like in this case, using my energy is kind of worse.
Yeah, it is worse.
Worse for wear. So I'm just going to go ahead and rest. When I rest, I have an injury, so we're going to go ahead and take a fatigue.
Beautiful. So now I can continue playing if I wanted to. I have no energy. I don't have anything in my hand that I can play because I'm not doing that right now. So I'm going to rest as well. So we successfully rested. Hooray! That means we go to our round structure card. The ranger turns are now complete. So the first thing that we do is we say, did everybody who was injured take a fatigue? And Zach did that very well this time.
Checked it.
Which is great. Then we go to the travel phase. If the location has progress equal to or exceeding its threshold, 6 does equal its threshold, we can remove all path cards and travel. So, Zach, do you want to travel right now or not?
It's tempting. I love maps.
Yeah.
But we did also just get Cordo.
And he does seem like he's distracted.
Yeah, and you can tell on his card there's a couple of really important words. One is friendly, which means he doesn't interact with you like a typical card out here would. You can go past him and not get fatigued.
Right. He's not going to fatigue us. He's just hanging out.
But you'll see this clear with damage or progress with a book entry. And we already noted if we clear him with progress, there's an entry that we get to read. So it's pretty tempting for me. We don't have a particularly threatening board out to stick around and try to see if we can see what's up.
Now, the gamble is the 2 cards that come out of the path deck are very bad, and we have to spend a lot of time to kind of get rid of them. And then we end up wasting a lot of time in our day, and maybe we waste so much time that we don't ever even get to talk to Cordo. But I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
I think we should try.
Yeah, it's wasting our day.
Yeah, wasting. What is wasting one's day anyway?
Clearly something's on Cordo's mind, so I feel like it's worth the investment.
And
Plus,
you ate some berries and stuff.
he seemingly owns a tavern, so I think he's a good person to have on our side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. All right, so let's move on. So let's not travel. We're going to stay here. So we pass the travel phase. Don't have to worry about that. Then we go to the refresh phase, and we're going to ready all of our cards. So anything that needs to be readied, we would do that now. We're also going to regain all of our energies. So this is the fun part of the round structure. We've got that, and I'm just excited, ready to go.
And there's one more layer to this.
We're going to draw 1 ranger card.
I already did that.
Don't forget that.
I'm a
I
step
know you're
ahead.
a quick draw.
Is on the weather card.
Yep.
It says refresh. So during the refresh phase, we're going to discard a cloud from this card. So it's going to go down to 1. And if there are no clouds, we're going to flip the card. And you can imagine when it's not cloudy, what's going to be.
And yeah, and that remains, always in the refresh phase. Is there anything in this that happens during this phase? Anything on the board that we need to pay attention to? And if you forget it, it's fine. It's also fun. Nobody cares. Nobody's watching you.
I've known some people forget it.
Just have a great time. Okay, then coming back up to the path cards, each ranger draws one path card, starting with the lead ranger. We have an overgrown thicket, and we're going to look at what the arrow tells us. So the arrow says up, so that means it comes up along the way. This is a feature, flora, and an obstacle, and it also has the obstacle keyword. We'll go over that here in just a second. It adds the hunt test to the board, so we can add progress to this feature equal to our effort using that test. So that's one way to get it off the table. And then it also adds a blue challenge effect to the board. So what an obstacle is like it's the no fun zone of Earthborne Rangers.
I mean, obstacle sounds like it would be no fun.
Yeah, so an obstacle basically means that you can't, the number one thing it means to me is that you can't travel if there's an obstacle that's ready in front of you. So even if we both rested here, as long as this obstacle is active up here, we can't go to a new location. We have to stay here until this is dealt with. And if that all stacks up and then all of a sudden there's 4 or 5 obstacles, it can be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that obstacle says. The second thing is you can't go beyond an obstacle to interact with something else. So right now, I can go past Cordo. He's friendly. He would take no fatigue because he's friendly. Normally, if this didn't have obstacle, I would take 1 fatigue to traverse the main location. Because this has obstacle, I can't even go to the main location until I do something with this. I can either exhaust it, or I can get it off the board by clearing it with progress or harm. Those are my options. But now you got to draw a card too, so it's not going to get any better for us, I don't reckon.
Could though, yeah.
Yeah, it could, I guess. It could.
Okay. We got a Citadel.
A Citadel. Okay, we've seen that before. It has that down arrow, so it comes to within reach of you.
That's right.
And now you've got a doe and a bramble. I've got Cordo, and then we've got an overgrown thicket in front of us.
And the world is ours.
So this is the final turn that we're going to show you, and we're adding everything to the mix. The rolls are in, so our roll cards are in. We haven't done anything with these yet. We're going to play cards from our hand, and we're going to do some things that show off how wild and crazy this can all go. So everything is currently unlocked. We can play the game in its fullness. All right, scaffolding complete.
Well, on that note, I've had a card sitting here the whole time.
Yeah.
I just want to reference so to make sure I don't miss. It's called Scepter of Harmony. So I am playing a Shaper character, and Shapers get these conduits that they get to start with that are based on whatever your highest stat is. So I was 3 Spirit, and you'll notice this is a 3 Spirit Scepter of Harmony. Starts in play because it says setup. So at the start of the game, you get to go find a setup card and put it into play.
Basically, every Shaper gets their staff, if you will.
Kind of wizard.
They're kind of wizardy.
It's a conduit, and then there's a special kind of card that Shapers get to use called Manifestations. And to use them, you have to use one of the charges, or in this case, songs from the Scepter.
Got it.
From a conduit.
Because you're like a wizard.
Like a wizard.
Like a wizard.
But not a wizard. Legally distinct.
But very, very similar. Okay, so it comes to me. I'm the lead ranger. We both drawn our path cards. We're now in the ranger turns phase. We can play a card, we can perform a test, or we can rest. And I think our main objective is to see what's going on with Cordo and then get through that obstacle so we can travel.
And I got some things to deal with.
You got a lot of business over there. Let's start playing some cards. This is a card game after all. I'm going to pay 1 to play a reverb block it. It costs 1 focus because of that 1 is up there, and you see focus. It kind of makes sense. It has 2 echoes. So I'm just going to put 2. Can you give me the sweet little deluxe dice over there?
What color?
The white oak.
It's oakish.
Thank you. It says 2 echoes here, so I'm going to put 2 there. It says when you play this gear, attach a moment to it from your hand. So I'm going to attach Walk With Me as a moment from my hand. Love that. And then it says exhaust, use an echo. Play the attached moment as if it were in your hand. It remains attached to this gear instead of being discarded. So the reverb block, it gives me 2 charges of something that normally I can only play once.
Wow.
And if I get more charges on this through friends or other cards, then I can continue that combo going. Now, this brings in an exhaust ability, as do our roll cards. Now, the exhaust abilities you can use before somebody does something on their ranger turn or after.
And on anybody's turn.
Anybody's turn. So I can exhaust, take a test, exhaust. I can take a test, then you exhaust, and then you take your turn. The exhaust and those kinds of abilities that you can contribute to the board are very free-flowing in that way. So don't worry too much about when you can use them. When you want to use them is about when you can, just not right in the middle of a test. So I play my reverb block it. That is my action for the turn. I'll pass it back over to you.
Okay. I think I'm just going to go ahead and play Oru the Sheepdog.
Doesn't seem like a bad play ever.
Yeah, I always love a good boy. So there's a few things about this that I think are important that were confusing to me at first. First, it costs 2 spirit, so I'm gonna go ahead and take 2 spirit and play Oru. Now, I originally was playing it down here in my equipped gear slot because it feels like it's a friendly thing that I'm playing, so it should go here. But it actually goes within reach.
Yeah.
So he's friendly, which means he's not gonna exhaust me for his presence. He's persistent, so we travel, he'll stay in play. He's also unique, which works also like I wouldn't expect it to work.
Yeah, the official rule works a certain way.
Yeah, the way I play it, though.
But we got some
where I'm
house
from-
rules on this bad boy.
So the intuitive thing to me would be if it's unique and it's in play, you can only have one of those in play, period.
Like across the entire table. All 4 players, 1 Oru.
Yeah, but per the current version of the rules, is each ranger can actually have a copy of a unique card in play. So technically, there could be 4 Orus bounced around.
Well, the only thing that it actually has to happen there is you have to, if you play a second copy, you have to change the name.
That's
you
right.
have to call it
you
something
have to
else.
get a permanent marker and permanently change the card.
And honestly, I can understand that because if you have 3 shepherds at the table, or if you swap into a game that you want to play with your friend and your strategy revolves around the same stuff, you don't want to kind of box them out. But I would suggest you change the name, like Boru or Koru would be good, acceptable
Yeah,
differences.
could be any number of these things. So, anyways, I'll play Oru and I'll pass back to you.
Another thing that's worth that friendly keyword. So that has to exist because you play it on your within reach zone. If it didn't say friendly, it would fatigue you when you move past it. So it's kind of like they have to put it there because it's not in your equipped gear to kind of bring the point home. You know,
It turns out the playmat helps because this has equipped gear right here. But when you're playing without it, this is just in my brain, my friendly zone. you know?
yeah, totally. We played a lot of Arkham and stuff.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that whole thing. But it makes sense. Oru, the sheepdog, is not a gear.
That's right. You can't equip a dog.
That's right. But you can't have a dog around and following you and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, play Oru, back over to you.
All right. So big thing again, our objective. Think about objectives. A lot of times you're in the middle of Earthborne and you start doing tests and you're just doing tests and you have then you're like, why am I doing it? Why am
Things
I
are
here?
flying everywhere. There's dice all over the table.
So the one thing we know is that we cannot leave Lone Tree Station, even though we have 6 progress up here, because we have an obstacle that is currently active in play. That means if it's exhausted, that would not be a problem anymore. But since it's standing up, it's in our way, we cannot travel out of this location. So that's a problem. I'm uniquely suited to handle this problem.
Excellent.
Now, notably too, one of the cool things that we could do here, this is the Undaunted Seeker, my roll card. One of the just best uses of this is that a lot of times you'll have this Lone Tree Station might have 4 progress on it. And it's like, how are we gonna get out of here? So I could actually exhaust my roll card to dodge the overgrown thicket and still interact with Lone Tree Station. So like Cordo, I would come up through here. Cordo's friendly, so no fatigue. I use my Undaunted Seeker ability to dodge 1 card. I'm going to choose this card, so it's not an obstacle. It doesn't fatigue me, and then I can interact directly with Lone Tree Station. So if you are an Undaunted Seeker, you have some really cool moments where you can do stuff that seems almost impossible, and that's why I play the role. I love it.
Now, question for you.
Yeah.
As the Undaunted Seeker at the table, I presume that would not allow us to get around the obstacle when we're trying to travel in the travel phase, because that's a whole separate piece.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think we could bail out of that one. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to clear the overgrown thicket using our favorite test from the common test card, the Traverse test. You'll notice it is a feature. It says feature on it. So I'm looking to do at least 4 progress worth of traversing so that I can get it off the table, and then that opens us up to be able to travel. I've also got this walk with me response on my reverb locket that I am keen to tell you about whenever we get there.
I'm going to say the confidence that you're going to be able to clear this, because we need 4, right? It's 2 per ranger.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I've got a good idea. Why don't we do a traverse test on the overgrown thicket? So I'm going to look at my shoot, as I call it. Friendly here, so even though it's 2 presence, it's not going to fatigue me because it's friendly. And so I can get here without any other cards that would cause me fatigue. So no fatigue is taken to do this test. I've got 2 energy tokens. I have to start with 1, and then I'm going to add my additional. And then I can add approach icons from my hand. I like this bold card. It's great. It's got the matching icon here so that when I'm doing my traverse test, I get +2 to this test. So I'm currently at 4. Do I want to add any more?
Well,
You think it's a 0 or a, and we've got the blue that could give us a +1. I don't want to waste my cards.
it's also, so the presence is 1.
Presence is 1.
So if you're at 4 and you draw anything that's a minus,
Yeah.
the total progress going to be on there is less than 4.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not ideal.
You have tricks?
No, I'm just gonna do it.
You just
I think I'm
part of the
just gonna
cards?
do it. Yeah, because like I could come back
See
in
that
here.
-1 we just pulled up
You
there?
you've got 2 fitness, so if you need to, you could maybe finish it over there.
Have you seen the things in front of me that are going to fatigue me?
Well, maybe we can solve that problem too. We've got if we draw the blue challenge effect. This is important to remember the board, right? So we've got all these challenge effects going on too. If it adds progress, I add 1 additional on a blue. So if it's a -1, but it's a blue,
So we have like
also
presumably a 33% chance to get a +1.
yeah.
But also, I have no idea the breakdown of that deck. Like,
I don't ever
know
wanna
odds.
know.
I don't ever want
I don't ever wanna
I just
know.
know there's a -2 of everything. Other than that, I don't need to know.
All right, we got a test of 4. Presence is 1. Go ahead and hit challenge effect here, the challenge card. Let's see what we get. Ooh, and like butter, like clockwork, Zach.
Just like you drew it up on the board.
I'm a genius. So I have 4, -1 is 3, so my effort is 3. And then I'm going to look at the test here. It's a traverse test that says add progress to a location or feature equal to your effort. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this right here because I've got a little pending thing here. I'll use your little nice die. I got a pending thing because in the framework, I have an opportunity to respond to something that has happened here. I have determined the success or failure of this traverse test.
They've
And
succeeded.
Walk with Me says, after you succeed at a traverse test, add progress to a being equal to your effort. This is in addition to the test's standard effect. So that means that if I exhaust my reverb block it,
Okay.
and normally at reverb block, it's weird. It's going to take the timing of whatever card is attached to it. So like just kind of don't even.
This is an exhaustibility.
It's an exhaustibility, but just kind of work this in here, and then it all makes sense if you just kind of cover up that text a little bit.
The ranger abilities are also exhaustibilities, and those can basically be inserted almost any time.
Typically, exhaustibilities can't go in between like during a test.
Yeah.
They can go before and after.
Yep.
Reverb block is particularly weird. So
Because it's an exhaustibility to trigger response.
yeah. So it's like, but just read this text and it'll solve all your problems. So I'm spending 1 charge off of Reverb Block It. That's going to allow me to play Walk With Me as if it was in my hand. I still have to pay the cost and all of that. So 1 spirit to play Walk With Me.
Okay.
And then I'm going to add to a being equal to my effort. My effort is 4 minus 1 is 3. So let's add 3 progress to that being. And that's in addition to the standard effect. So this is 3 there. Then we'll put 3 here for our traverse test. And then we were smart and we left the card.
That's right. Yeah.
So now we'll
What's
go
that
up
wise?
and we'll resolve our blues from left to right and our surroundings. So if this test added progress, add 1 additional progress. Boom. There it is. Now you'll notice I'm not going to add an additional to Cordo here because when I was triggering Walk With Me, it was just concerned with the effort I had at the time, not any additional challenge effects that came later. I'm not going to kind of retcon that. So that's going to stay at 3. This is at 4. Cards that reach the threshold immediately clear, of course, unless they're the main.
Which is important because if that weren't the case, the blue on that card would remove a progress before.
It's a
Yeah.
brilliant
so start with the
strategy.
top, and then cards that come out, things that change, will be changing before you get down to them.
If we had gotten like a -2 and then the blues would have canceled, it would have been a disaster. We would have had to explore for a lot longer.
A disaster.
Overgrown thicket is gone.
Hang
I
out
come
on a
down
tree a
here.
little longer, get some biscuits, you know.
No blue here to resolve, so nothing there. And then I have successfully resolved this task. I'm going to remove these icons. I'm going to discard this card. And then I'm going to put this challenge card back in the challenge discard. You are now free and clear to go out of there. If we want to travel, we can travel. There's
Yeah.
no more obstacles.
Yeah. Well, before we do that, so you've taken your.
Yeah, I'll pass it back over to you. Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to note, I noticed that you got 3 progress on Cordo, and I just want to make another point about the exhaustibilities here. So I have this Oru, the sheepdog. He's got exhaust, move a being, and add 2 progress to it.
Oh, sweet.
I've also got my Scepter of Harmony, which is exhaust, use X songs, which are the tokens on it, add X progress to a being.
No way.
So I could do it on my turn. You can also use exhaustibilities on other rangers' turns, which is important. That's what I meant earlier by the exhaustibilities can kind of go in a lot of places. So as an example, before you even pass it back to me, I can go ahead and exhaust both of these. And we'll put we'll move Cordo to put 2 progress on him with Oru.
All right, let's do it.
And then I'll remove one of these to put another progress on Cordo.
Boom.
Because I want to see what Cordo's up to before we get out of here.
And then
You know what I mean?
Cordo is immediately cleared. And let me tell you one of the sophisticated pieces of these exhaustibilities. For instance, if you did that before I even attempted that test, and then I had a card in my hand that said, when you clear a being or something, that might be really important for you to get the progress on early so that during my turn, I can get a benefit from that. In this particular case, doing it at the end of my turn, at the beginning of your turn is the same thing.
Yeah.
But it could matter that it's still my turn when we're reading Cordo, so maybe the active player gets something.
For sure.
It does matter.
And also worth noting, activating friendly cards. So I have the Cicado and the Sunbury Bramble here in front of me. But if you're engaging with or in this case, exhausting cards on your side of the board, it's not going to exhaust me.
It's not going to fatigue you.
Yeah, it's not going to fatigue me. exhaust. It's not going to fatigue me. So it's only when I'm going past that.
Yeah.
So I can use Oru without suffering the fatigue.
Yeah, you could use Oru. You could use the Fit test on Oru without any fatigue. You could chew the Sitka Bug without any additional fatigue, or you could pluck the Sunbury Brambles without any additional fatigue.
That's right.
So Cordo is cleared, which means, reference the card, clear with progress, 44 in the book.
All right.
Now, we will not spoil 44 in the book for you. We've got a special entry that we're using for this tutorial. So you can feel free to keep listening. You won't get anything spoiled for you. So Cordo says the following. Read the following. I've been spending a lot of time up north recently, Cordo says. I've gotten to know Lund pretty well and was expecting to meet him on my last trip to the northern outpost. Only he wasn't there. I've doubled back to see if I could pick up any tracks, but so far I found nothing. I could certainly use another set of eyes. So we get to choose A or B. You can do this two ways. One, you can read all of it and then choose. Or two, you can just read the flavor text before you know the results of the flavor text. So that would look like we could choose, of course, happy to help, or we could choose, I'm sure Len is fine. He's a ranger after all.
What could go wrong?
So give you a little context around this. If we choose A, just so you kind of know how the mission system works, typically it's going to give us a mission, and then we're going to have now a goal that we're going to travel and try to find Lun. But if we choose B, a lot of the times it's not just, oh, okay, moving on. Sometimes it's like, oh, you'll heal some fatigue, or you'll have another benefit for maybe moving on and not picking this mission up. Or, in this case, record a number 3 days from now on the campaign tracker.
Yeah, and then we'll read that entry on that day.
Yeah.
So if he is in trouble and we don't go help him, there can be consequences.
It could be consequences.
And he could be just fine.
It could be, oh, you
As
have
we
one
said,
that's
I mean,
fine.
he's a very sharp ranger, Of
Yeah.
course he's good.
Everything's all right. So in this case, we don't have anything else going on. I feel like we may as well pick up this mission, right?
Yeah, and we're about to travel anyway, so
Yeah, easy mode. All right, so gain the Search Lund mission. Record 94.11 3 days from now on the campaign tracker. So I would pick up my campaign tracker or my printed out version.
I was gonna say we printed one because you go wild on this thing.
I would go up to the top and I would look whatever day we're on, I'd go 3 days later, I'd write 94.11 at the top of this here. And then if we don't have another search or rescue mission is the only time that we can choose this. So you can only be on one
searching
search or
for
rescue.
multiple people. And it's important to know too when you gain this mission card, the search mission is generic, I guess.
Yes.
It functions in a certain way because the game will presumably having you search for different characters at different points.
Yeah.
So, sure.
So we put the search mission here in our little mission framework. We're going to attach Lun to it, face down. Don't worry
peek.
about that. We'll see what that happens. And then it says you are following the trail of a missing local. If your current location is not a ranger station, well, it sure is. It is currently a ranger station based on that card text. When a feature comes into play, place 2 trail tokens on it. And when a card with trail tokens is cleared, place them on this card. And it needs 8 tokens to succeed at the mission.
So we have to clear 4 features.
Yes.
Because they each have 2 on them. Assuming they have 2 on them when they're cleared, which you can see from some of these tests, they will mess. So and we're adding another element up here that reacts to the challenge.
And now this is going to resolve every time we draw a card. And one of these 3 things, challenge effects,
I'm sure they're all
happen.
very good for us.
And so now that we've got this mission, right? So this is kind of the vibe of Earthborne. Now we've suddenly kind of been pushed into a new direction where it's like, oh, okay, well, we need to go search for Lund. We didn't know we were going to do that, but now here we are. And where we're going to do that is we're going to have to go to different places that are not ranger stations. We're going to have to stay there trying to find features out of the path deck. So that might be, turn after turn after turn.
Got to be searching,
Could scout the path deck with cards from our hand to try to find features, put them out. They're going to get those tokens on them, trail tokens, and then we're going to have to clear them with progress, usually using traverse tests. Those tokens are going to go to the search mission, and then once we get 8, we will have succeeded in finding one. Very cool way to do that mechanically.
Yeah, and it's important to note on the missions like that, at least in the case of search, if you get tokens on it in a day or a session, and then the day ends, those don't carry over.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you to mark. Only if it says mark this on your campaign tracker is when you mark it.
That's the only things that will stick with you. So it is important if you end up getting this mission like late in the day.
Yeah.
you're probably not going to be able to get it done, but the mission sticks with you because it'll have you write the mission down.
Yeah. So you'll come in the next day and it will reset at 0 and you'll start over. And you'll probably make the choice to try to do it really quickly all at once, even if it's the wrong decision.
Yeah. But
Because that's
sometimes
Earthborne.
You've got other things going on, right?
Yeah.
Like you might have multiple missions. You can't have 2 search missions, but you can have multiple missions going on. Or you may be trying to get somewhere. Or who knows what you're up to.
Okay, so we cleared Cordo using your exhaust abilities, and now if that was the end of my turn, it's going to now go to your turn, or if it was the beginning of your turn, we're already on your turn. So you now get an action to take. You take a test, play a card, your choice.
And so we can technically travel, but to travel, we basically have to end this round.
You can always rest,
So I'm going to try to make some use of my resources before we get out of here. I'm going to go ahead and pet Oru. So it's got this fit test. It's fit plus connect. That little heart.
Plus the heart,
Pet your canine companion to ready this being and soothe the fatigue. So I've got this fatigue here, and the strategic thinking behind this is I've also got an injury. So injuries will make this fatigue stat go away if I don't get it back. So I'm hoping to pet Oru, have him ready for action, and then also get his
soothe that fatigue, and then it gives you a little bit of end advantage.
So I have to commit at least 1 fitness. And now let me look if I have any hearts that I want to commit to this. I'm going to go ahead and do I have any other fitness needs?
What's the hardest connection?
Yeah.
You can do a connection test.
I'm just going to go ahead and put 2 in. I don't have anything else I'm wanting to do with my fitness. We already have enough progress on the main thing to traverse.
I find it very funny that you're petting the dog with only fitness and no connection. This is just a vigorous play session. This is not this is not a bonding time,
Yeah, and it's important.
A lot of fetch.
It does not specify a difficulty of this test, so the assumed difficulty is 1.
Always 1. Yeah, no free lunch.
So here we go. 1 got a 0, so I'll succeed at this test, which means Oru is going to ready. And I will soothe this fatigue, so that will go into my hand.
Beautiful.
And then we'll start resolving. So first, if progress was added, we had an extra, nothing. This says the trail grows cold, or remove a trail token from a feature. So if we had cleared a feature and gotten tokens, the mountains are going to make that difficult for us.
Yeah, if there was features out here, basically, that we were trying to harvest for trail tokens, it would remove 1 from that feature, so it's harder to harvest.
Yep. Then nothing along the way. We'll go within reach. Oru is fine. We have 2 things happening here. We have the Cicada says if there's an active predator, exhaust it. Add damage to this being equal to that predator's presence. So there's not an active predator. Carry on. And I could choose which order these happen. That doesn't do anything, so I'm not going to get much of a choice. Sunbury Bramble says if there's an active prey, which we actually have, the Cicada is an active prey, exhaust it. So we will exhaust it. And then it says add progress to it and harm to this feature, both equal to that prey's presence. So the prey's presence is 1. So we'll put 1 progress on the Cicada, and then we're going to put 1 harm on the Sunbury Bramble, which only has 2 that it can possibly have. So it's actually going to clear the Sunbury Bramble.
So the Cicada eats the Sunbury Bramble, and just like that, the environment has taken care of one of your main issues.
That's right. So now I have nothing in front of me that would fatigue me for interacting from here or here. Not that there's a lot I'm going to interact with in that case.
Yeah, and that's one of the beautiful parts of the game is like a lot of the times it's not necessarily about you solving the problem. Many times it's about taking tests, hoping to draw certain challenge effects so that the environment kind of takes care of itself. So a lot of times there's just a patience element to, if I draw a blue here, like all of this goes away rather than me trying to avoid it and connect with it, trying to do it all myself. A very fitting philosophical take from our friends over there at Earthborne Studios.
Yeah, and it makes sense because nature is happening.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Hey, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's happening. It's cool, man. But it really does feel alive. I mean, it's cool that everything you do, basically every test you take, can make the environment shift, which represents time passing too, right? You're taking an action, time passes, things happen. Boulders go down a hill, other creatures show up, other creatures leave, plants get eaten, etc.
Yeah.
T-steeps, whatever.
As they say, time goes on. One of my favorite songs, actually. Okay, is it my turn?
Sure.
All right, I'm just gonna pay 2. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna pay 2, play an adaptable multi-tool, and that's gonna come in with 3 charges on it. And because I know we're probably about to both rest so that we can travel to a new location, I'm just trying to set up some gear so that when we arrive at that new location, all of the stuff that's been played is going to stick with me. So it's better to do it now before things get heated than later on when it's tough and I got to start taking tests.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play a Paratrepsis Whistle for 1. It's going to come into play with 3 calls on it. And it's an exhaustibility I can use to prevent injuries in the future, because I'm a little sensitive.
Yeah.
After getting
Yeah.
injured myself, and
Can you hand me one of the oak dice?
Yep.
For this,
I like that we're
card or
calling oak
something.
dice.
Yeah, it's nice. And you notice what we're doing here is like when we're playing cards, we don't have to worry about the environment getting weird. So a lot of times the safest thing you can do is just play cards, because if you take tests, that's going to trigger challenge effects. It's going to change the board up. And sometimes it might be the third ranger at the table can solve the one particular problem. And so if everybody can just play cards until they take the test, they don't worry about basically screwing it up for everybody.
Yep.
Another important thing about playing cards, and gear in particular, is that you see the little pips up here, those little square pips. So that's a system to tell you how much space you have for equipped gear. So you can have 5 total, and my adaptable multi-tool takes up 2. Zach's whistle there takes up 1. So if you ever play anything in excess of those pips, you have to choose something to discard to get you back square. So you got to drop a axe or drop a flashlight or whatever.
Only so much room in the backpack and only so many hands.
Only so many hands, that's right. So you played the whistle. It's back to me on the multi-tool. Like I could do some cool multi-tool stuff. I could exhaust it and spend like an awareness to gain like a focus. And then I could take a focus test to try to draw a card. That's pretty cool.
We like cards.
I don't know if I want to waste a charge on that, but you know what? Let's do it. Let's show it. I'm doing it.
You don't have this, right?
I don't have this right now. So let's look at how this multi-tool
It's easy for that
works.
to, get out of control.
So I'm going to use an exhaustive. I can do that before or after the action. So before I take an action, I'm going to exhaust. I'm going to use a charge. And then it says, spend 1 energy. I'm going to spend an awareness energy to gain 1 energy of any type. I'm going to gain a focus energy.
Nice.
So that looks good. And
One thing I
then
want to note about gaining energy,
Yeah.
If we haven't already mentioned it, is the stat card is how much you get at the start of the round, but it's not a cap. So
go over.
yeah, I noticed you had 3 focus. So if you already had 3 focus, you could technically convert it into 4, and they're going to be cards that care about how much that you have. So
Yep.
that can be important.
That's accurate. So then I'm going to do the remember test, the common test here. Spend 1 focus. It's a test of 1, so it could, it could fail, but who's counting?
I don't know, man. You've been pretty hot.
Remember test, getting the 0. That means I will succeed at the test because 1 is equal to or greater than 1. Focus, remember, scout ranger cards equal to your effort, then draw 1. So I have 1 card. I can scout. I don't want that right now. And then I will draw 1 card blind, and much better draw on that one. Then I look at my crest. Nothing here, nothing here. Suffer 1 fatigue as the urgency of the task weighs on me. Oh, no.
Oh, I was literally about to say,
Oh, no.
there's no reason for me not to take the focus test until that moment.
They've introduced something that gives us a lot of reason to not take a test. now.
Fascinating.
Was it worth the card, Steven? No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe it was. That was a pretty good card in hand.
Okay, so over to me, I was going to take that test, but given that I have the injury, fatigue, I'm very vulnerable to fatigue. You still have a chance to get your fatigue back. I don't want to cause any ruckus. I'm
You're
happy
going
with
to
my
take a
hand.
fatigue every time you rest. So, you're going to stack up quick.
Yeah. So I'm actually not going to take an action, but I am going to use an exhaustibility. So my roll card here, I can exhaust, choose a manifestation in my discard, and add to my hand. So I'm going to grab this Seen Through the Cycles and put it back in my hand. And I don't have anything else to do, and I'm just going to do that before I rest.
So then you're going to rest as your main action. Okay, and then it comes back over to me. If I had fit tokens, I could technically pet the sheepdog. I can pet your companion.
That makes sense.
That'd be kind of cool.
If I literally have my dog sitting right here, or you had your dog sitting here, I
Yeah.
can pet that dog.
I'll pet that dog. So I don't have fit tokens for that. I've got 1 awareness token. There's nothing that I need to avoid, which is the common test for awareness. I could spin it up here, trying to search on the Lone Tree Station test, but we really don't want to be right now introducing more things to the board. We want to get out.
You just give us another obstacle, Stephen.
So I think I'm going to rest as well.
Okay.
And so that now that we both rested, now what's notable, once you rest, I could do 17 turns in a row if I wanted to. But once we have both rested, then we go to the round structure and the ranger turns are officially done. So then we have options here. We can go to the step 3 on our round structure, travel. If the location has progress equal to or exceeding its threshold, it does, 6.
Check.
Which is correct. You may travel. If you do, remove all path cards from the play area. Now, path cards are all of the things that come out of the path deck. So the Sit Cadeau is an example of, basically the only example of the path card there. Remove path cards from play. Choose a new location and assemble the path deck for that new location. So, let's look at our map.
I got that. Oh,
Oh, you got it?
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
I got the big map here.
And now this is the greatest, one of the greatest moments in all.
Give me
of
that. I want to
gaming
make
right
sure it's
here.
the right direction. That's the wrong
Maps.
direction. I don't know why my brain did that. Okay, so this is the map, and we are currently at Lone Tree Station, which is right here.
Right there, boom.
Yeah, so we can essentially go to
Pivotal.
any connecting location. If you remember for our mission, when we read the text, it said Lund was headed north.
Oh yeah.
So that could inform our decision. Maybe for some reason we think he went south, unless I think we should go north. So if we're at Lone Tree Station, these are the locations we can go to, and
Yeah.
the gold locations are the pivotal locations.
Pivotals, yeah.
Which you can imagine is where bigger things happen. A lot of times these are ranger stations. As you can imagine, like Northern Outpost up here is probably a ranger station.
Yeah, and like pivotal locations, they come with a certain set of cards that are in the path deck guaranteed. So if you know that a person is always at Lone Tree, they're always at Lone Tree. And they can be where important things happen too, because the game is basically saying we will always give you the opportunity to draw these cards if you go here,
yeah.
which can be like mission prompts and stored keys and stuff.
So where we decide to travel will affect a lot of things. So if we decide to go to like Atrox Mountain here as an example, you'll see there's a path with an icon on it. And the icon's down here. That's the mountain pass. So when we're building this deck that we've been using currently,
Path deck, yeah.
the path deck, this icon is going to be most of the cards that we see.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, the pivotal locations are also going to add cards that will show up in that piece. So my preference, we head north. Let's go see if we can find one.
Yeah, I'm into it. So we'll go to Atrox Mountain. So the way that would work is basically we take this path deck, we take all of these old cards from the path deck, we take Lone Tree Station and move it out because we're no longer going to
don't
be
forget
there.
this.
We take the Sitkado, and then we will take all of the path cards from Mountain Pass. We'll put Atrox Mountain into play on its backside, on the arrival side. So we'll deal with that here in just a second. We'll take all of our, that's our old path cards. We'll take the new path cards here. So this is all of the path cards from the mountain set. And then we'll take 3 random cards from the valley set. Now these are all, when you're not at a pivotal location, these are all cards that are like, who knows what they are. They could show, like, there are cards in here that as you travel to non-pivotal locations, you might get like, the same 2 or 3 cards every few times. You might go halfway through the game without seeing all the cards in this deck. You might go your whole game without seeing all the cards in this deck.
Terrifying.
So these are all the random wild things that could happen out there in the valley. Could be mission prompts, could be new characters to meet, could be problems, could be solutions,
Yeah. And if it were a pivotal location, we would have more cards to put in here. But it's not.
That's right. They would be the same. We would look at the pivotal location like we would look at Lone Tree Station. It always has the same stack that we add to the path deck. So we have our path represented by the mountain pass. We have the additional cards, which is either 3 randoms if it's a non-pivotal location, or the pivotal location specific cards if it is. They go together. That forms the path deck. Shuffle this bad boy up. And then,
So then the next step is going to be the arrival.
yeah, then we'll be ready.
And this normally comes with a story entry that we would read, which we won't be reading here. It also has oftentimes steps that you'll take, like sometimes you'll deal path cards to people, etc. And then once you complete it, you're going to flip it over into the actual location itself.
That's right.
And that's going to inform a lot of what's going on.
So our path deck comes up here. Notice we haven't touched anything else. The challenge deck remains untouched. This is a momentary pause here. Then, like you said, we resolved the arrival setup. So Weed Ranger is going to search the path deck for the next obstacle and put it into play. So I'm just going to simulate that for us so that we don't have to show you all the cards and spoil anything. So let's say I search through this deck. Oh, yeah, this is the first obstacle. Say it's this one. Okay. So that comes into play along the way. And then, Zach, you would take the deck. You would search it if you want to. And that's the next.
It just says the next one, right? So you could just even flip until you find the thing.
you can
and
flip 'em.
And then here you go.
All right, so now once we've resolved arrival, we flip this back over. We've officially arrived at Atrox Mountain. So we've got our path deck and then whatever's remaining in there from the random valley set, the 3 random cards. And then it's going to continue through the round structure. So we've traveled, but now we go to step 4, we refresh.
And it's important to note, in the travel phase, if we travel and want to stop, we can make camp.
We can camp.
And camping's good for reasons. One, you camp officially, and that's when you can introduce throughout the campaign, you're going to earn rewards. You can alter your deck.
Yeah.
and whatnot. Now, if you end the turn because you ran out of deck, you don't get to camp.
You don't get to camp.
In which case, you're stuck.
It's
Stuck.
problematic.
But otherwise, you just continue playing. So our hand stays the same and play stays the same. We follow these steps. So we go to refresh. All of our cards would ready.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the refresh. So let's get our energy back.
Yep.
Everything stands up.
Your injury's staying. And we traveled. I have an injury.
You rested. You have an injury. You rested.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
supposed to fatigue yourself.
So I will go ahead and fatigue.
But if you forget, we won't tell anybody. As long as you're having fun out there exploring.
Raise his eyebrows. And I'll tell you, I played with a large group of 4 playing this game. And there are going to be things that you miss or forget. And it's fine.
Now, the important thing, of course, remember the unspoken rule of the refresh phase. Are there any cards on the table that say refresh?
Like a perfect day.
Yeah.
Says refresh, discard a cloud. So we discard it, it runs out. So if there are no clouds remaining, flip this card. Now, I don't want to show anything else about this game.
It's not, yeah.
I want you to experience it for yourself. But you can imagine what happens when the clouds go away on a perfect day.
Yeah, here, flip it over, and then we'll just put a little blocker on it there. Yeah,
It's very yellow, you know, bright.
So then we come back up to the path cards phase. Everybody's going to draw a path card. So I'll draw this one, and it would go here. You draw this one, and you put it wherever it's supposed to go. It might be along the way or within reach, depending on the arrow. And then we're back in the Ranger turns phase. We're at a new location. We know we want to get features to complete the search and rescue mission, and we continue playing Earthborne Rangers. So I think that's it. Other things that I guess we haven't done here, we haven't ended or started a day.
Yeah. So if we had chosen to camp instead, we would end the day.
Yeah, and that would just basically clear everything, put it back in your collection, and you'll notice that then when you come back in and start the day, there's no reference to like what you were doing previously that isn't written in your campaign tracker, campaign log, etc. It may as well be as if you're opening the game for the first time. So like you get questions all the time. Well, do the search tokens stick around?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do the persistent creatures that I played last session, do they come back? Nothing comes back unless it is explicitly called out in the start of day procedure.
And that's
on the game.
That's well spelled out in the rule book. But fundamentals that will stick around is like the location that you ended at, the path deck, the path that you took to get there. So basically, you're gonna be able to build this deck back.
Yeah.
But everything else resets. All the stuff you had in play resets, etc.
Yep. New hand, new everything. So it's basically just a full-on start over, reference the campaign guide, campaign tracker to see if there's any additional things that you need to bring into the board aside from just the standard stuff. And then lastly, Zach, what you got any sweet tips? You got anything that you want to let people know?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things and they're connected. Which one of the things I do commonly is I'll only read part of a card. And there's a lot of different cards in this game. And there's a lot of stuff going on. So I just suggest taking your time and reading top to bottom the card. I've read cards where I'm like, I don't even know how that would work. And then you read the whole card. And you figure out how it would work. And again, the whole point of the game is exploring this very optimistic future setting and helping people along the way. So lean back and enjoy it. And read the cards. And if you mess up something along the way, it's fine. Just fix what you can and keep moving and don't worry too much about it and enjoy this incredible experience.
Yeah, I'll pick up on that too. The one bit of advice, and whenever my wife and I sat down to play this for the first time, I gave her the same advice, which is like, the theme is beautiful. And it makes it seem so approachable and like it's going to be essentially like a walk in the park, right? We're just going to be having fun and watching some birds. The game is deceptively complex. This is a crunchy game. It is like learning a second language. It takes some brain power to kind of place yourself and understand what is going on mechanically in the game, what I'm supposed to be focusing on. So don't be worried if you feel like, oh man, this is like, there's a lot going on here. I didn't know that it was going to be this in depth. That is a benefit of the game by end of day 1, start of day 2. But that first experience that you have with it can be very kind of, I thought it was going to be really easy and breezy. And it's actually, I've got to think, which tests do I do? How do I get through this obstacle? How do I deal with these things in front of me? I'm taking a lot of fatigue. Am I doing the rules right? So you're not alone in that. That's a totally fine thing to feel. And I just would encourage you, stick with it. Focus on the fundamentals, the fit test, traverse, main location, so that you can travel. That is like the first thing that everybody's going to want to do. and then everything else kind of falls into place from that singular objective.
Yeah, and I have a bonus suggestion
Yeah.
off of that, which is if you're struggling with anything or anything's confusing, join our Discord channel. And there's a ton of lovely people there that are very helpful and friendly. I've had so many things that I've been doing wrong or had questions about where to play Oru. Can other people pet the dog? Like, how does this work? Even this seems really hard. Like, should it be this hard sort of questions? But they're a great resource. If you run into any trouble, I would highly recommend joining our Discord for that.
Yeah, great suggestion. So thank you all so much for being here. And we do hope to see you in the Discord. We can talk about the game and your experience with it and how you like this video and all those kinds of things. Leave us any comments on this video if you have questions. Try to answer them there as well. And we hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for joining us.